Tristan, I've come across this thing called Mythos in some of the research I've been doing around sort of AI. Some customers are asking around the various technologies out there, and it's not something I've come across before. Is this something in your travels as a CTO?
Yeah, it's certainly been in the news a lot recently, and for fairly good reason, I think. So, a bit of background on what it is, as I understand it. So, it's a new model, AI model from Anthropic, the creators of Claude. So they've built this model as a kind of general purpose large language model, like the others that we're used to. So the things that power ChatGPT, Copilot, that kind of thing. Then when they've come to test it, it's had these capabilities that they weren't expecting, and they are around cybersecurity. So it's got the ability to autonomously go and find previously undiscovered vulnerabilities in software. It can go and look at entire code bases, entire operating systems. It can join those vulnerabilities together to create exploits that actually work, and it can do it at massive scale. So you can see why people are worried about it. Now, it's not released to the general public yet, so the fear is, I guess, hypothetical at the moment. But people in my position are kind of seriously considering what impact that could have on the software that they use, on their business, on their suppliers, all of those kind of things. Because if it's an AI model that can operate at computer speed, right, there's effectively no limit to the damage it could do and the pace that it could do that.
Yeah, so I guess with quite a lot of these things, look, AI, I think to most businesses is it's a strategy they want to embark on, but it's difficult to know where to start and what the pitfalls are. Now, with I think quite a lot of these things, there are not scaremongering, it's probably too strong a term really, but there's genuine concerns about this solution and what it can do. I mean, what are the impact on businesses? What's the potential challenge here that this could really create for companies adopting AI in general?
Yeah, I think you're right to call that out, and it's not a new thing in technology, right? I think the move to the cloud, there's a lot of hesitation there, and people kind of, well, if I put all my stuff in this cloud thing that's up out there in the public, what's going to happen? So it's not a new thing for that kind of hesitancy to be around. I think where Mythos has come into the conversation is the potential damage that it could do is pretty significant. What Anthropic are doing is releasing under a special program the model to some of the larger tech organizations out there. There's about 40 of them, so your Microsoft's, AWS, Google's, etc., big banks, with a view to them using it to detect these vulnerabilities before it kind of gets out into the public. So I guess it's kind of being managed from that side of things. From a organization thinking about AI and thinking about risk, those are things you should be thinking about anyway, right? Doesn't matter what sort of AI you're thinking of using. You need to be thinking about protecting your data, so your users can't upload things they shouldn't. They're not using tools that you don't know about, that maybe aren't secure in the first place. So it doesn't, for me, it doesn't really change those decisions as a technology leader and the kind of security posture you'd have. It's just another thing to think about in terms of the tooling, but the principles remain the same, I guess, if you're thinking about zero trust and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and look, I think if we talk about that a little bit further, a lot of companies look at AI and it's either all or nothing, right? It's you prohibit your users from using AI, in which case you don't have shadow AI, so they go off using unsanctioned solutions and technologies that are out there. Versus organizations that go, okay, let's open up AI, but actually let's give them the tools that we sanction, that we want to guide them to use. Again, what are you sort of seeing this sort of thing changing or driving those behaviors in IT, especially within, for example, financial services and heavily regulated sectors as well?
Yeah, and you're right to call out the kind of regulated industries there. So I think the only way to kind of control AI use and drive adoption and everything that sits around that, make sure you're getting a return on the money that you're spending on it even, is to have a strategy, is to have a plan, and in regulated industry, it's to define what the tooling is, what the policy is that sits around that. If you don't do those things, AI is coming, or it's arrived, whether you like it or not. So if you don't have a policy, if you don't have a set of approved tools and a way of controlling what those are, people will go and find stuff, and they'll use things you're not expecting, and they'll find ways around it. It's no different from your kind of old shadow IT type scenarios where people go and they'll solve problems and work around things. That's no different in the world of AI, right? So if you don't have structure and governance and policy in there, they're going to do that. In regulated industries, there's more to think about. So some AI providers and models process data in different regions, so there's governance things to think about there around kind of GDPR and data residency and that kind of stuff. So again, all decisions we'd be thinking about if we were deploying a new ERP or CRM or banking platform or whatever it might be. So kind of common principles, but I guess a new set of tools to bring them to the fore.
And I guess if we look at I guess generally how we would advise an organisation looking to consider rolling out AI to the business, what are the core foundations that we tend to start with? Because again, a lot of the conversations that certainly I seem to have, and many of my teams, are organisations are saying we want AI, we want to roll it out, we want to drive this, we want to do this, etc., and gain benefit. But the fundamentals of rolling out AI isn't just simply the AI technology itself. It's deeper than that, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's often the less glamorous and fun stuff, right, that we need to think about. So think about tools like Microsoft Purview that allows us to label all of our data with sensitivity labels, and we can then define policies around that, so we can prevent things that shouldn't be uploaded and used by an AI model through tools like that. We can also use data loss prevention policies. So if someone tries to, upload some IP or something into an AI model to get it to do something, we've got control over those things. Much easier if we're using things like Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, because that respects all of the kind of governance and controls we've got in place anyway. So if I don't have access to something, AI is not going to change that. It's sitting within the kind of existing tool set I've got on perimeter. We need to think about the data itself, the quality of that data, how complete is it, how up to date is it, how organized is it. AI is going to learn from it. So if we've got old data or inaccurate data or incomplete data, the answers aren't going to be as good when you ask AI to do things for you. So they're all things that need to form part of that kind of baselining and part of that plan. We've got loads of ways of accelerating that with different kind of assessments and deployments and things. So it doesn't need to be a massive, long drawn out process, but there's certainly things that we want to get right before we kind of dive into AI in general.
No, that's good to know. And I think just again to step on further from that, cybersecurity. I think again many of the conversations that we've had, a lot of customers go, "That's great. You want to try and create that foundation, but we've got a vendor for this, we've got a vendor for that, we've got a vendor for something else." The vendor sprawling is a big challenge for them. Again, what's the sort of advice and guidance would you share to be able to, I guess, have one throat to choke, let's call it that for now, to be able to make sure that this stuff stitches together really well, and therefore there aren't any gaps or challenges in our security posture to support what we're trying to do around the AI piece.
Yeah, it's interesting. It brings us nicely back to the Mythos thing, right? So they've given early access to that model for the reasons we talked about earlier, and the kind of security implications to the kind of biggest, most experienced vendors out there. So your Microsofts, your Amazons, your Googles. In terms of exposure and where's the threat within your organization, you're exactly right. It's going to be the kind of small solutions that we've collected along the way, because they solve maybe a tactical problem or whatever, but they don't sit within that kind of protected boundary and security architecture that we've got in place. So if we think about everything that's Microsoft platformed, all sits within the same tenant and the same kind of security architecture. So it's got conditional access, it's got multi-factor authentication, it's got all of the kind of threat detection and kind of policy that sits around that. It will be the little kind of smaller vendor point solutions that we've got for other things, that's effectively that's your weak spot, right? That's where the attackers are going to get in. So I think Mythos being released to these 40 big vendors kind of tells me that that's where to place your bet, right? If you want to stay safe, is to align with one of those, and then you're benefiting from all of the investment that they're making in cybersecurity and staying ahead of the game. Whereas if you're looking at maybe a much more disparate set of vendors and suppliers, that's a lot more places to worry about for starters. It's potentially lots of different security models, and some of them are probably investing their R&D budget, all into the product or the next feature or whatever. Whereas if you go more of a platform play, it's all about the platform and the security and stability of that platform, right? So yeah, in a world where we're looking at AI-driven kind of vulnerability detection and exploitation, if it's me, I'd go with a trusted vendor that's got a secure platform.
Absolutely. And I think, that leads us nicely on to, I guess, all of this stuff is really nebulous, right? There's a lot of information flowing around, some of it, useful, others perhaps not so much. What are the actions leaders should be really thinking about to make sure that they sort of protect themselves, and how would we actually help them to understand what the critical path to success or de-risking their AI strategy looks like?
I think first thing, really simple. Know what you're working with, right? Know what you've got. So know which applications you're using across the business. Know which vendors they're from, and then do some work to kind of audit the quality of those. Again, there's tools within the Microsoft Defender suite that help us audit cloud apps and apps that are on endpoints, so we can get an inventory effectively of everything that's in the organisation, and we've got a nice kind of package deliverable that we can go and do that for our customers as a kind of workshop engagement. So we can say, here's everything you've got, here's a kind of set of recommendations off the back of that, and then we would be looking at kind of enterprise architecture type piece of work after that to create a path to consolidation typically. So we simplify the estate, get a core platform that's dependable and secure, that is our kind of baseline, and then work on top of that. So we've got some kind of quick assessment type stuff that can help customers understand where they're at, what kind of tactical things they need to do quickly if there's areas of high risk in there around applications and data, and then we'll look at a longer term roadmap as to how we kind of get on that path to maturity, working on a single platform and having a plan as to what the future looks like, and therefore how can we adopt AI safely, how can we get return on investment from it, and all of the things that we'd expect. So plenty of ways we can help.
Oh, fantastic! Like really, really useful stuff, Tristan. Really appreciate it. I think I've definitely learned more during this chat. So thank you very much for enlightening us. And look, guys, if you want to know more, certainly reach out and we can have a chat with you about your security posture and AI specifically, and obviously keeping you safe in a world that's ever changing. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.